City boy, city boy.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's your boy, Nate the Great, back with another video. And I still have my NXT review coming tonight, so do not worry about that. But I had to go ahead and jump in here, okay? Because a couple of my commenters, June being one of them, but then also a Mark, an absolute Mark, came into my comment section and brought to my attention a interview that Triple H did, well, most likely this last week that he did it. And I had to talk about this. So Triple H went on the Flagrant podcast, okay? He went on the Flagrant podcast, and this son of a bitch, first of all, spent about 2 hours sucking his own nuts, okay? Sucking his own dick, and just really putting himself over. All right, you go ahead, you do you, boo-boo. All right, now, the thing is, I wasn't going to talk about all the media appearances that Triple H has been doing, especially over these last couple of weeks, because, yes, he was on Jimmy Fallon, all right? He was at, the NAB conference, I believe it was called, and now this comes across my desk where he's doing the Flagrant podcast. All of this smack dab in the middle of one of the most, if not the most, boring and convoluted WrestleMania builds of all time. Of all time. Triple H is out here sucking his own nuts and having people fawn all over him, while we're in the middle. We don't have any real stories built for WrestleMania. We just got a bunch of thrown together matches thrown together at the last minute. Liv Morgan and Raquel versus Bayley and Lyra Valkyria. Fucking El Grande Americano versus fucking Rey Mysterio. Drew McIntyre versus Damian Priest. We just got a bunch of shit. A fat plate of shit thrown in our face for this WrestleMania season, and this son of a bitch is out here doing media. This is one of those things. This is one of those things that I'm always talking about. Now we'll get into what he said during the Flagrant podcast that really rubbed me the wrong way. But this is one of those things, all right? One of those things that really pisses me off about Triple H, really pisses me off about this era, is the fact that Triple H, he's not keen on putting over any of his talent. His talent is just that. It's just talent. They're just names on a piece of paper. These marks come into my comments acting like they care about these wrestlers, acting like Triple H is God's gift to wrestling, God's gift to earth, because he's so nice to the wrestlers and he treats the wrestlers with respect, and the wrestlers just love them. Let me ask you a question. When's the last time you were asked about your boss on a public stage, and you just were able to shit on your boss and you not get fired? When has this ever happened? When has this happened in the history of humanity? Were you able just to get up on a public podcast, a public media outlet of any kind, and completely shit on your boss? You know whose opinions that I like to hear from? Those that have been let go by Triple H during this era. Because those guys tell the story that Triple H is a fucking snake. That he'll sit there up in people's faces telling them how good they're doing, how great they're doing, how they just have to keep on working and their time will come. Then all of a sudden, they get that call. Not from Triple H, but from somebody else, because Triple H is a fucking pussy. Triple H is out here doing all this fucking media, getting all this attention. This motherfucker's on the late night show with Jimmy Fallon on the Flagrant podcast, doing conferences and all this shit where they're just sucking their own nuts, talking about how widespread their reach is now that they've gone to Netflix. Well, guess what, some bitch? You may be able to reach. You may have the potential to be able to reach 700 million households, but bitch, you're reaching 2.8. You're reaching 2.9. 3 million. You started with 5.9 million. That's what you started with. You lost half of that in a couple of months. And this jackass, instead of doing what his job is, which is being the chief content officer, the guy who's the head of the creative, instead of actually coming up with stories and actually putting together good characters and building great storylines, making it so we have to watch the next week. We have to pull out our wallets to get that Peacock subscription. We have to pull out our wallets so we can go and see the nearest show whenever it comes to our town or a town near us. It's something that we just have to do. Instead of doing that, this motherfucker's on Flagrant Podcast. Now let me break down what he said during this podcast, because like I said, the entire time, okay, all he's doing is sucking his own nuts. That's it. That's all they're doing. Even Andrew Schultz sucking Triple H's nuts. Okay, that's all that this podcast was. I sat there and listened to the entire 2 hours and 39 minutes. There were some times where I had to skip ahead because it was just like, this is just getting too much. This is too much. Too much nut hugging here. But let me get to the couple of parts where I really want to talk about. So first we'll talk about what happened. It was more towards the end of the episode. Then we'll come back to the beginning because this is something that I really want to express. Triple H says that the internet is not a real place. Triple H says that we block out the noise from what's happening on the internet because every single week when we come in, the crowd is chanting, "This is awesome," and the crowd is there, and we're packing out 10,000 seat arenas, and they're cheering for everybody. Cody Rhodes sucks. Well, the crowd loves him. Jey Uso sucks. Well, the crowd loves him. Let me explain to you something about this crowd, about these crowds that you have. The general wrestling fan these days that are actually coming out of their pocket to pay money to go to these wrestling shows is either a parent, okay? It's either a parent where their kid just loves wrestling, okay? They love Jey Uso, they love yeeting. They love doing the whoas whenever Cody Rhodes comes out because these kids have TikTok brain. These kids don't know what actual storytelling is. So, of course, Mom, Dad, can we go WrestleMania, WWE, they're going to be in town this week. Raw is going to be in town. SmackDown's coming to town. So their parents go ahead and shell out that money that they worked their asses off for. And let me tell you about the other half. The other half are complete marks. Complete and utter marks. People who live their life by this wrestling shit. People who live their life and wake up in the morning, they're watching an NJPW match between Takayuno Ichigachi and fucking Nissan Uzumaki. They wake up, they're watching these shits. They love Bret Hart and Chris Benoit because they were just such great workers. These are the guys. These are the guys that are paying hundreds of dollars to get seats in the nosebleeds. Then there's another contingent. The guys that aren't paying all this fucking money so they can watch wrestling live because they have better shit to do with their time than to sit there and watch two sweaty dudes go at it for 15 minutes and some shit that doesn't make sense. Hitting each other's with moves that in real life, if anybody got hit with this shit, they're out cold permanently. That's who's on the internet. That's who's saying that this shit sucks. Wrestling has been going down the fucking drain literally all my life. But at least I was able to catch that in the latter half of my life, in the former half of my life, I should say. I was able to catch the end of it. I was able to catch the end of greatness. Where wrestling really started going into the shitter. And because I loved that part of wrestling so much, I went back and I watched the Attitude Era. I watched the Golden Era. I watched these eras, episode by episode. I got to know the characters. I got to know what wrestling was when it was at its peak. And I got to see the decline in real time. Well, not in real time, but you know what I mean. I'm watching this shit happen. And when I go back and I look at those fucking episodes and I look at all the storylines, everything that was happening, it was nonstop action. It was complete and total, just great story from top to bottom. And even the shit that didn't interest me, it was more than likely to interest somebody. That's what we were watching back in those days. Now, what do we get? We get 4 matches on the card. Every single match is 10 to 15 minutes long. 50-50 booked. Nobody's getting over. And this is the shit that you see on the internet. These are the actual people. These are the casuals that understand that this shit is entertainment. And if you're going to, since we all know it's a work, if you're going to entertain the people, you have to do a better job of trying. That means there has to be good stories. There has to be great characters. There has to be. And this son of a bitch goes off and says that the internet isn't a real place. Well, let me ask you a question, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, Paul Levesque. Let me ask you a fucking question. If the internet's not a real place, then why do you have a Twitter account? Why do you have a YouTube account? Why are you on Facebook, Instagram? Why are you here? Why are you there? Why are you on Snapchat? If the internet's not a real place, if it doesn't matter. If the reactions from the internet don't matter. You know, one day these marks they're going to run out of $15,000 to pay for WrestleMania seats. They're going to run out of that. The economy is not hitting right now. So all this money that you have these people paying, that credit card is going to start to decline. That card is going to get overdrafted to the point of no return. And then what do you have? Because you spit on all the casuals. You spit in the faces of all the people that would probably be willing, if you actually paid attention to what they were saying, would probably be willing, more than willing, to pay for entertainment. Because we all work hard. 8 hours a day, 12 hours a day. And when we come home, what do we want to do? We want to be entertained. We're working on our own shit, our own businesses, our own plans in life. And while we're doing this, we want to be entertained. And not just entertained, we want to be captivated. And this son of a bitch has the nerve to say that the internet's not real. The reactions are on the internet, we don't pay attention to them. When last year you turned around the whole entire company for Cody Rhodes because of the reaction on the internet. That ended up bleeding into the audience, which it will do. It's already starting to. I predicted that Seth Rollins, before I even started really making these videos like that, I predicted that Seth Rollins was going to be fucking like nowhere to be found. As far as a top guy in the company. The people were going to start turning on him after he lost the fucking World Heavyweight Championship. I predicted it. Because the entire time that I'm watching his World Heavyweight Championship reign, I'm like, this shit sucks. There's no real story going on here. He's going out and he's having 50-50 matches with literally everybody. Literally everybody. Everyone from Shinsuke to Finn Balor. Going down to NXT, 50-50 with Braun Breaker and Ilya Dragunov. 50-50 with Damian Priest, Drew McIntyre, whoever the fuck was getting thrown at him. 50-50 with everybody. Just barely eking out. That's not how we see a champion. That's not a championship reign. You could have taken the championship off of him and nothing would have changed about that. So that's one thing that I wanted to talk about. And the other thing that I wanted to talk about, because we talk about guaranteed money on this channel from time to time. And if you watch anything that Vince Russo does, he talks about this from time to time as well. So shout out to Vince Russo. He talks about how the WWE, they have guaranteed money, right? The check's already cashed, so they're good. They don't give a shit about entertaining the people anymore. They don't care. And what's funny to me, because towards the beginning of this conversation, sometime between 9 minutes and 14 minutes of this conversation on the Flagrant podcast, you know what Triple H said? Triple H was saying something to the effect that, WCW, they just had a completely different kind of style, a completely different kind of payment structure, schedule structure. They worked half the days, pretty much, that WWE worked. They pretty much only worked on TV, right? They were giving guys guaranteed money, right? And they were doing half the shit. They barely had any house shows. And they were just paying tons of money, just tons of money. Tons of money for this wrestling product and not getting a good return on it. Does that sound familiar? Does that sound like something that we're watching today? Where Triple H is talking about how these superstars, he said these superstars, they barely even showed up. They showed up during the shows and phoned in. And since they were getting their money anyways, it didn't matter whether they showed up or not. So they stopped caring. Does that sound familiar? Does that sound like something? And Akash Singh, the Indian guy on the channel, right? He asks a question. He asks a question to Triple H, which just rung in my head throughout the entirety of the interview while Triple H was sucking his own nuts. He asked, well, how could it be that WCW had this style? They're paying all this money. They were working less. Like, how could they continue to go on? And Triple H says, well, they're out of business for a reason. And he doesn't see in his own face, in his own eyes, that he's doing the exact same thing to his company now. Not his company, but you know what I mean. Stars getting buried, 50-50 booking, week after week after week. We barely see the stars anymore, and the stars don't care to be seen anymore because they're getting paid regardless. Regardless whether they show up, regardless whether they're in a main event, regardless whether they're on a pay-per-view, they're getting paid money. Good money, great money, generational wealth. And they don't care. They don't care to improve. They don't care to develop a character. They don't care. Does this sound familiar? Triple H is destroying this company. Destroying it. Has the nerve to sit up here on all these shows, all these podcasts, sucking his nuts. Doesn't have the gall, doesn't have the wherewithal, I should say, to put LA Knight up there, to put Cody Rhodes up there, to put Roman Reigns up there, to put Seth Rollins up there, CM Punk, all these guys who he's trying to push as these top guys. Maybe everybody except for LA Knight in that regard. Drew Mack, right? All these guys he's trying to push as the top guys in the company. They're not doing media. And if they are, it's some fucking small podcast, something smaller than mine and shit. They're not doing me. They're not on fucking Jimmy Fallon, the Flagrant podcast. This is something that Vince McMahon, he never had an issue doing. People would ask for Vince McMahon. Vince would say, no. But I'll tell you what, I'll send John Cena. I'll send Stone Cold. I'll send The Rock. I'll send Warrior. I'll send Hogan. But I'm good. Somebody calls Triple H, he jumps on that shit immediately. Somebody calls Triple H to do an interview, to do a podcast. He jumps on that shit immediately. He doesn't even think about sending his talent out there. The guys that actually need this shit. Triple H is set. His fucking salary is like $20-50 million a year, some shit like that. He's good. Triple H is fucking good. These are the guys that need to come up. These are the guys that are the future of the company. Another thing he says, he's talking about the heel turn with John Cena and all this. Talking about how hard it is to be a babyface, which is true. John Cena, as soon as they pitched him the idea to turn heel, how he jumped on it. And that's great. And then he tried to explain the convolution. It was just the final point. Tried to explain the convolution of John Cena's heel turn, because we all know we all know that the John Cena heel turn has been a fucking abject failure. An abject failure. He tries to explain it. Oh, yeah, well, you know, his reasoning is, you know, he gave all this to the fans and the fans never, you know, gave back to him. Well, let me ask you a question, Triple H. So what do you mean by that when for the last 5-6 years, John Cena has literally been being called the GOAT? John Cena doesn't get booed anymore when he comes out. I mean, now, of course, obviously, because he's a heel and all that. But for the last 5-6 years, where he's really just been part-time in it, the crowd's been calling him the GOAT. Michael Cole calling him the GOAT. Pat McAfee. All the announcers and commentators, when he comes out, the greatest of all time, John Cena. That's how they refer to him. And the fans were right along with it. The fans getting upset at Triple H for continuously putting John Cena in a position where he gets fucking buried by some jobber and then Triple H buries the jobber. And the same with Vince. They've been mad at him. So this whole entire thing just simply does not make sense. Triple H has no idea what the fuck he's doing, and honestly, he doesn't care, obviously, because he has more important shit to do than, you know, to actually, you know, be creative, like his job title says. He has more important shit to do, more pressing matters. So while we have convoluted storylines, while we have shit wrestling in the ring, Triple H is out here making an absolute ass of himself, going on all these talk shows. And the fans are the ones that are left holding the bag. The wrestlers are the ones left holding the bag because Triple H's convoluted shit booking. Please leave a like on the video. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. This has been your boy, Nate the Great, back with another video. Leave a comment below if you want to hear some more, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.